First of all, I just want to kind of start off with, even though she gave a great intro to what is a life and business psychic medium, I want to kind of calm anybody's nerves who's like, gosh, what is she? Is she going to bring a crystal ball to encourage her? Like, there's such a big, broad spectrum when it comes to anything spiritual like that. And so I just want to calm anybody that I take a very grounded and practical approach to the work that I do. And I blend it with my love and my passion of business and sales and marketing and entrepreneurship. And I blend it with this beautiful gift of psychic mediumship. So I have built my business full-time over the last couple of years. It's been an amazing journey for those of you that are in entrepreneurship. You know those peaks and valleys that I'm talking about, the highs and lows that come with being a business owner. And today I just kind of want to share with you a little bit about my experience and about how my success has really come from leading into my intuition, from trusting that intuitive guidance that absolutely everybody has that we just necessarily don't always follow. So I haven't always been psychic. I think that's the thing. That's one of the most common questions that I get is, how did you know? How did this happen? In fact, it hasn't really been that long since I got psychic. It's been just a couple years. Definitely from a very young age, I always had this connection, almost like a fear around anything with spirit or anything along those lines. But it was really with the birth of my son in December of 2013 that brought this gift on in just a very, very strong way. And it very quickly came on. When he was born, he was about 2 weeks old. I was up in the middle of the night, and I was nursing him and started sensing him feeling spirit, feeling somebody that had passed over, actually. And my father-in-law, who was in spirit, who I'd never even met, was the first time that I ever had an encounter with that. And with that awakening, I knew that there was something to it, that I didn't need to be scared of it, that I needed to lean into it and really get it to the core of what was happening. And I actually had a girlfriend who said, well, why don't you go see a psychic medium to figure out what's going on with you? And I remember my words to her, I was like, what is that? What is a psychic medium? Like, I didn't even know what it was just a couple years ago. And she explained, and so I went to see somebody. I went to see a psychic medium, and she said one statement that changed my life. From the moment she said it, she said, so why is all this stuff happening to me? Why do I keep seeing stuff? Why do I keep feeling stuff? I seriously thought I had like a bad case of postpartum depression or something because of the things that were opening up for me. And she said to me, don't you understand? You're supposed to do what I do. And I looked at her and I said, the oddest thing back to her, I said, oh yeah, I remember now. Like such an odd thing to say, like somebody tells you you're a psychic, and you're like, oh yeah, that's right, I remember. But that's exactly what I said back to her. And within a couple of days, I was practicing with people that I felt comfortable with. And within a couple of weeks, I was doing face-to-face, heart-to-heart readings for people in my home, people I'd never met before, connecting them with past loved ones, intuitive guidance, messages, guidance. It was amazing. And within just a couple months, I started doing small parties, 10, 15, 20 plus women, where I would just come into their homes and connect them with their past loved ones. Now, all while this was going on, I still had my corporate job. I still had to get up. I had to go do my 9 to 5, which I always loved. I think when I look back at my career, there was definitely always those points along the way where I was shifting and I was always changing. I never really took the corporate ladder approach as much as I took the corporate jungle gym approach. Always looking for something new, something exciting. I remember, gosh, how many times there were like new opportunities or things along the way where it's like, I took advantage of it, even if it wasn't a promotion, even if it wasn't, I could never stick with one thing. And when you think about it, we're kind of penalized and we're kind of criticized when we don't stick with one thing, if we don't just be one thing. People question you like, oh, they must have good work ethics or integrity. But I was always at the jungle gym looking for the next, adventure, looking for the next opportunity that could inspire me, that could move me, that could challenge me. And when I started putting the pieces together, I realized that I didn't want to just be a psychic medium. I didn't want to just work in the corporate world. I wanted to blend those two worlds together and be in that sweet spot where I got to do everything that I love and everything that I'm passionate about. Now, the first question that usually comes up is, well, how? How am I going to do this? How am I going to actually follow what I love, do what I love, and love what I do, and get paid for it? How are you going to... That's just naturally what our brains do to us. That's exactly what our mind does to us. Is it makes us start wondering and questioning, well, how am I going to make this happen? Where's the money going to come from? How many can relate with all the what ifs and all the questions that start popping up? And what I'm here to tell you is that you have to have that curiosity. You have to have that hunger. You have to let that lead you to your passion. Now, when you start leaning into your passion, that's what leads you to your purpose. So many people I hear talk about, soul purpose, or being really locked into like this one thing that you're supposed to do here or be. And it's really when you find your sweet spot, when you start blending all of those pieces that you love, that your purpose is going to be, your purpose is going to start unfolding. So that's exactly what happened. Is I started blending both worlds. I blended my gifts along with my love of business and started finding this really co-creative way to work with entrepreneurs, to give them guidance, coaching, consulting, creative marketing ideas to really grow and strengthen their business and to start uncovering their gifts, their talents, and their abilities, which I believe absolutely everybody has. Even if you don't think you do, I guarantee you have once you kind of do a little bit of digging. So that has really been, for me, the last couple of years, is letting my intuition, letting that passion, letting that ignition from within lead the way. And there's a couple things that I really want you to pay attention to. And it's first just coming back to that passion. What is it that turns you on? What is it that lights you up? What is it that makes you smile, that makes you like you could do it all day long? That's what you need to lean into, and that's what you need to follow. That is going to lead you to your purpose. And when I say purpose can always change. It doesn't mean that now this is what, because I guarantee you, like there will be something a year from now that I'll be expanding on. We're always growing. We're always looking for ways to transform. At least definitely I am. And it's when you start following and going in that one direction that new doors, new opportunities will start opening up for you. So, and everybody in here, again, knows the difference. You know what it's like when you follow your intuition, right? You know those intuitive nudges from within. I guarantee you, from a show of hands, how many of you have been like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I trusted myself and followed this, right? And on this, I bet you can all keep your hands up when you can say the exact same thing, like, oh, why didn't I just trust myself? Why didn't I just listen, right? Absolutely. And so it's learning to let that be your guiding force. And whether that comes from, and this is where there's not a cookie cutter approach to following your intuition. What works for one is not going to work for everybody. But have something, a daily ritual, a daily practice, a daily conversation, whether it's with yourself, it's with something bigger, it's with your higher guide, it's with the universe, it's with God, it's in prayer, it's in whatever label you want to put on it. But have something where you're giving yourself that daily connection, that daily clarity of this is what turns me on, this is what lights me up, and this is what's moving me to go after whatever it is that you want. Anybody ever heard of like the term bucket list? Yeah, so I'm going to encourage you to really change the language around that and create a live it list. Instead of thinking it's something you got to get done before you die or before the end of the year or whatever timetables that we put on these things, really take it from a standpoint of this is what I'm going to start living. We talk a lot about legacy. That's a really common word that we're hearing. And I want you to live your legacy, not leave it. I want you to be inspiring and moving and doing what you love and loving what you do. And it's when you start leaning into that and you let your intuition and you let that guiding force start leading the way that, again, those doors are going to open, the opportunities unfold, the right circumstances, events, and people start unfolding for you. And it's when you have that intention and you start living intentionally through your intuition that that the magic and miracles really start happening in your life and in your business. So yeah, that's it. So I had a couple notes. We didn't get to do the PowerPoint, so I just wanted to make sure I touched on everything. So anybody have any questions around, anybody have any questions that I can just kind of start with? That's kind of always my favorite part, the Q&A. Yeah?
Would you describe it as you have specific guides that you talk to all the time? The same guides?
Great question. No, not the same necessarily. She's referencing spirit guides. So if any of you are familiar with kind of that term or that terminology, I have what I call every single morning coffee with the universe. And I literally have, in fact, I don't know if I have it with me. I get out my journal, and I do. So I have had this with me. You will not usually find it too far from me. I call it Coffee with the Universe. And I sit in what some would call meditation, some people call it prayer. Again, you use whatever label works for you. There's no wrong way when it comes to finding your own daily practice like this. And I've learned I just have my coffee. For those of you who know me, I'm like crazy about my coffee. So I have my coffee and I have my journal. And I will write just questions. What do I need to know today to take action on in my business? What do I need to do to soothe this fear I have about this? Whatever kind of, we all have them, right? Whether it's something in life, whether it's something in our business, something that we're stuck on, some type of contrast, some type of, something that we're always working through something. We're always growing, we're always expanding. So whatever it is in that moment that I'm needing guidance on, I ask what I just refer it to as the universe. Some people call it spirit guides, some people call it angels, guides, it's the same thing for you as it is for me. We just put different labels on it. So, does that help? Does that answer your question? Yeah?
You mentioned when you had your son in 2013, so that was when you were youngest.
Yes.
That's when all this kind of came together for you?
Yeah.
Now, from where you are today, looking back at your other two kids and where you were with them, what would you say would be your best advice on kind of getting there sooner? Or
Yeah, great question.
Looking back?
So actually, when I have a 9-year-old, when I had him in 2007, the almost identical thing happened, where it was like up in the middle of the night, nursing, had this happen, and instead of leaning into it, it scared me to death. And I actually told my husband the next day, I said those exact words to him. I was like, I have some serious postpartum depression going on. Like, I'm seeing things, I'm feeling things. I was terrified. I was crazy. I really was. I was, more than anything, I was so scared that I was crazy because of the things that I was seeing. And so I went to my traditional doctor, who said, well, yeah, you probably are. Let's get you to a psychiatrist, who put me on, tons of medications. And I was actually on all of those medications for up until the day I found out I was pregnant with my 4th child. And of course, you have to go off of all that kind of stuff when you're pregnant, which I did. And I remember saying to my husband, probably, a couple times along my pregnancy, I think normal, don't I? I don't, you know what I mean? Nothing crazy is happening, it's except for the fact you eat Chipotle every day. Yeah, it's fine, So, when it happened again, okay, then I knew, there's something bigger here. This is not something to be scared of. I am not crazy. I am a good mom. I'm a good wife. I go to work. I have this normal, what we would consider a normal life. You know what I mean? I'm not crazy. And again, I was just, I said earlier, once it clicked for me, I have never looked back. I've never taken a pill. I've never questioned. I've never doubted, because I felt it so strong. And my life has changed in amazing ways since I really followed that gift, since I leaned into that. And I think it always seems to be the common thread is when we have those bigger life-altering moments, right? The loss of a loved one, the birth of a child. Those tend to be activating moments in our life where we're open for something new, where we're in a good, positive vibration, or maybe we're in such a low, aching vibration that we're more open to like something bigger than us coming in. And so that tends to be a really like common, the women that I've worked with, it's usually around their birth or the loss of a loved one, those kinds of things. So, yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, before we invited you to come in and speak here, you know, I had spoken with some people who have worked with you, and they were just raving fans. And I am curious if what sort of reaction you get from people in the business community when you tell them that you're a business and like psychic medium. Is that a positive reaction that you feel? And
Great question.
and how can we as encouragers in the community maybe help to have it be more acceptable?
Sure.
See where I'm going
Yeah,
with this?
yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And I think it's kind of been a gradual thing. You know, I mean, it was very uncomfortable in the beginning for me to tell people, like, I'm a psychic medium now. You know, I mean, my mother-in-law is here, and like that was one of the most terrifying conversations I've ever had. Where I'm like, how do I tell this woman who's known me all this time, like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm leaving my job to go be a psychic now. You know, so but I did. You know, I mean, so it hasn't just been in the business community, but even just like those conversations with friends and family, they had to come in a very organic way that made me feel good. And what really started happening, Shannon, was I started not necessarily not caring, but knowing that the work that I'm doing, the messages that I'm spreading, it comes from this positive place. And you can probably feel it from me. I'm very passionate about what I do. I love what I do. I know that it's for the good. I know that like the messages that I spread, the coaching I do, the consulting, it comes from a place of light. It comes from a place of helping people take their life and their business to where they're envisioning, but they're just stuck. And it happens to everybody. We all get stuck. And so, so I think now that I've been doing it for a while, my confidence is much higher. I don't necessarily get as anxious around telling people who I am or what I do anymore because I love it so much. And the other thing is that I've really found that the people that you know, I mean, everybody has different belief systems, or different religions, or like I was saying, you know, if you put your label on it, what works for you? What I do, some people don't understand, and so it scares them. So they don't want to have those conversations with me. And you know, if you don't understand something, you're usually intimidated by it, or you're scared from it. So this group has been amazing to work with. I mean, everybody has really been positive, and it's been a good experience. And I think, like in any industry, no matter what it is, you're going to have people that are positive about what you do and what you have to say, and you're going to have the other people that are probably just having a bad day anyways, and they're probably not my soul client, my ideal client anyway. And I started really, you know, worrying less about them and more about the like other like 1,000 people that do want to hear what I have to say. Instead of trying to make everybody happy, really just trying to work with the people that do want to hear what I have to say.
And I think any business professional could apply that.
Yes.
You know, across the board. I know.
And just like, you know, another common question that I get is, you know, unfortunately, like in any industry, there are some psychic mediums that aren't always doing the most positive work or don't always spread such positive messages, those kinds of things. And that's no different from any other industry. I mean, there's always the black sheep. There's always that, and so I don't allow myself to kind of I don't want to get into comparisons and things like that too. That's not how I want my business to be. So that makes sense.
Thank you.
What was the question? Yeah. Yeah. So I actually have an office outside of my home in Burnsville, and I still take him to daycare. He goes to daycare Monday through Friday. Of course, my other kids are in school. So I usually I see my first client at 10 a.m. So between 9 and 9:45, 9 and 9:30 is that's where you'll find me in my office, kind of lights down, journal out, drinking coffee, like what am I going to take action on today? So. And you know, it's every day. I mean, it's on the weekends. It's not so much that I'm having coffee with the universe. It's more coffee with like cars, Lightning McQueen, baseball. It's not necessarily that time. But I attribute a lot of my success and a lot of my clarity from that practice. And so whether again it's for you, it's meditation, it's like whatever you want to call it, getting that daily clarity for yourself is, like it's gonna really set you up for success for that day, for that week, for that month, if you really lean into it and trust that intuitive nudge that comes up from that. Yeah.
I have a question. So when you meet with clients for the first time, do you do some sort of like pre-interview with them, or do you just take them home?
So I usually do, and actually, thanks for the lead-in, there's like a little thing on all the tables. Like it's usually what I call like a discovery call, a clarity call. I want to make sure that we're a good fit. I want to make sure it's a good match. I want to know that I can make the biggest impact possible, that I'm able to get you and your business to where it is that you're really, desiring. So in that 15-minute conversation, I'll have a really good feel, even usually before that call. So, of course, like we're psychic mediums and a little on the woo-woo side, right? So before I see any of my discovery call clients, I will kind of go into almost like a form of like meditation for them. Is this somebody that I can make an impact with? I already usually start getting hits. I usually already start getting like messages, guidance on what I even need to cover in our like introductory call. So I usually already have a really good feel for the energy that's surrounding you and your business. So it's very tailored, it's very custom, it's very unique approach for sure. So so there's kind of that intro call, but yeah.
So my question kind of has two parts to it. So, you're kind of discussing, and I had met you before my first time here. And from what I had gathered, just correct me if I'm wrong, you don't really use too much of a vehicle. Like some people have like tarot cards, or it's just kind of what comes to you. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure that the information was right.
Yeah.
The second question I have is it just going to be like your ideal client or your person is like, are they just going to be coming to you for just advice on careers, or is anybody open to come talk to you about things maybe a loved one passed away, going through a tough spot or whatever? Is it
Yeah.
just something?
My primary business is really working with spiritual, intuitive, it doesn't really matter what kind of business you have as long as you're open to where my information is coming from. That's really kind of the most common thing is, are you open? And again, most of the time people are probably they get what I do. They're open to it. So that's the first part. I take very limited amounts of, like, if you want to call it like a reading, where it's just individual one-on-one, like a 1 hour session, 45-minute session, something like that. Only because I know that that's not for me. I like to build a relationship. I like building the business with you. And as an entrepreneur, you can't separate yourself from your business. I mean, it's not like you just punch out at the end of the day. You go home. On my drive home, I'm like, oh yeah, I need to send that email tomorrow. I get home and I talk to my husband about, oh my God, I had this amazing client today. As an entrepreneur, that level of ownership that we take in our business, you don't just shut it off. You don't just turn it off. It's with you all the time. That can be a blessing and a curse all in one, let me tell you. But I truly enjoy staying connected to my business. So, one thing with entrepreneurship is the mindset that it takes, the drive that it takes to get through the moments of contrast, get through the dark moments. I mean, we all have them where we hit the lull, or gosh, is this really going to how many of you as a business owner are like, God, am I doing the right thing? Is this actually going to work? Am I actually going to make this happen? It can sometimes be a daily question if you're in a place of growth or transformation within your business. And I love being that guiding light for people when they're in those moments. I love it. And so that's what really has kind of led me to do more of the intuitive business coaching and consulting versus just doing like individual one-on-one readings where, it's just a 1 hour session. I get to invested. So, yeah. Does that help? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
Is it hard to, you were talking about getting into it, how do you manage that in your daily life? Like, you're not seeing someone one-on-one and you want to be intuitive at that point, then how do you start to
Yeah, great question. I don't think that we ever completely shut it off. It's just, are we really fully engaged in listening? So I mean, there's lots of times where, people are like, well, what happens like when you're out and about? I mean, like especially with like mediumship, which is really being able to connect in with people who have past loved ones around them. And I gotta tell you, like, it's not uncommon for me to be like standing at Target in the cereal line and to look over at the person next to me and go, oh boy. Just the stuff that I pick up and things. But I'm not like Teresa Caputo. I can't just be like, have a camera crew following me to do, to do like awesome stuff. Though I do have better hair than she does. So, I would love to be able to do that. I've done it before. It hasn't always been the most. It hasn't always gone. People aren't always open to something like that. So startling on the spot. But so it's always kind of with us. It's always with me for sure. Sometimes it's stronger than others. Sometimes it comes on when I least expect it. The one thing that I can say is that when I need it, it is always there. So before I came up here, before I have any session with a client, before I'm doing any intuitive work, before I do any type of reading, I make sure I have that connection to the universe where I feel strong and supported and know that I'm going in the right direction. That's always a really big important piece for me, is that trusting myself. I mean, and trusting yourself too. You know what I mean? Like, that's really a big piece to, gosh, not only just entrepreneurship, but just like following that for yourself and knowing the difference from that intuitive nudge within. And, when you start to hear, people are always like, well, how do I know it's my intuition? When you start to hear things like, well, that probably won't work, or nope, that's never going to happen, or what if, that's not your intuition. I guarantee you, that's your subconscious, that's your mind, that's that piece kicking in. When you get that soft place of encouragement, or like you just feel, you can feel it, you can feel the difference, that's the right way, keep going, you can do this. That's your intuition. That's it guiding you. Your intuition is never going to be the one that's like, nope, big red flag, not going to do that. That's not going to be your intuition. It's going to be the guiding force, the soft nudge, the feeling. Yeah.
Have you ever not taken out the time and
Yeah.
second one, is it all via phone or is it in person or both?
Yeah, absolutely. There have been, and that's actually the 15-minute session is as much for my clients as it is for me. To make sure it's a good fit. Again, like I kind of said, like the biggest determining factor is can I make this happen? Can I, I think that's why I have such strong testimonials. Is I'm very I'm selective in that if I'm going to say that I can do this for you, I'm going to get it done. And if I feel like I can't, or if it's a bigger project, then I'm going to refer it on. Or I really come from my business from that standpoint with it. The second piece to that is, so I have an office in Burnsville, so I see clients in my office in Burnsville, which is fantastic. I also use Zoom conferencing. If you guys aren't familiar with Zoom, get on it, get to know it. It's going to be your next, it's going to replace Skype, I guarantee. I'm psychic, so. So Zoom is like a web conferencing, kind of like Skype, if you're familiar with Skype. So we still get to see each other face to face. And then all of the sessions are recorded, so you can go back in and watch them. So, and it's I don't have a business plan, you know what I mean? Like I take a very different approach to what the plan is that we're going to co-create together. It's not the traditional template. It's not. I work with what I call like the 4 pillars of success, which are your branding, your sales conversations. So I work with all of those things. I mean, that's what I did for 15 years. I loved it. I mean, I loved business. I love sales. I love marketing. It turns me on. Like you can tell, I love it. But I also love my gifts. You know what I mean? And that's when I'm talking about that sweet spot for you. It's when you blend them both and you pull it. It's that middle section for you. And I guarantee you, everybody in here has that middle section. So that would be, you know, if you draw two circles and you kind of keep that space in between, what is that piece for you? I actually had a like nice graphic for it, but we don't need to show it. But that sweet spot is going to lead you to your purpose for sure.
So then off of that question, if for folks who maybe don't know what it is, like maybe they have an idea of what they want,
Mhm.
they're not exactly
It's
sure.
my favorite.
Okay, so that's so you're gonna help people even find that sweet spot.
Yeah, I have some
You don't need to
people.
know what it is prior to. You can help us figure it out.
You know, the big thing that I want people to have is like that desire, like to know exactly what it is you want to experience. What do you want to be feeling? So if you can get to that, we can create all those other pieces. It's that end result of really knowing what do you want to feel, what do you want to experience, what do you want to create, what do you want to manifest, what do you want your life to look like, what does an exceptional lifestyle and business feel like, what are you doing, where do you see yourself? The rest we can create because I guarantee you, just like me along the way, you've had different jobs, you've had different experiences in schooling. There's things there that you love doing no matter what. And so it's blending them in a way that you enjoy. Like, I love Monday mornings. Like, do you know what it was like when I used to work in banking? Like, I did not want to get up on Monday and go to my job. Are you kidding me? Like, I wanted the weekend to, you know, to stay. I mean, but that's what a lot of, like, that was like in that world. It was dreading Monday, living for Friday. And, oh my gosh, like, it's just not that way anymore. And that's what, and now that I have that, like, I want everybody to feel that. You know, I really do. I want everybody, so you should, that's why you're here. So it's getting to, it doesn't always have to be the what, it doesn't necessarily have to be the how, but it's really getting connected to your why and staying connected to that and feeling that and embodying that every single day. That'll drive you. That'll, again, make those doors and opportunities open up for you.
Okay, so one more question. And then I gotta wrap you up. So anybody
We're just
have
getting
questions?
started.
No. So I would encourage you guys to book a discovery call, right? But I would say one last question for Amber. Who wants to fire away?
Yeah.
Have you ever been in a situation where you've had to advise somebody that they're not going down the right road? Because you're seeing that they're,
Yes. The beautiful part about my gift is that it doesn't just leave them with, sorry, have me stay. You know, like, this isn't going to work for you. It's, this is a better path. There's more possibilities going here for you. Somebody, I'm not going to call her up, but somebody here is talking earlier about like one thing, and I said, that's not what you're really passionate about. Tell me what you're actually passionate about. And she's like, oh yeah, do you want to see pictures? And like her face lit up. Like, that's what she should really be. You know what I mean? Like, there's things along those lines, and I really feel like that's part of my gift is to be able to uncover those gifts, those talents, those abilities in others, and blend them in a way with all of their actual business skills, market, like all of those to like create that, again, kind of creating that exceptional lifestyle in business versus the traditional way of trying to figure things out, be one thing, find your sweet spot, blend it all together.
All right. Cool. We could all
Awesome. Thanks so much for the questions.